again, everybody. We are here to help. Gordon Dill with consumer expert Diane Lee. Diane, this time we're going to tackle something that even in the best of circumstances is extremely complicated and can be extremely confusing.
Yeah, it really can be. And that's why we want to simplify things for folks so you know what to look for and you're not overcharged.
How closely do you look at your medical bills? If you don't know your rights as a patient, you may not know when to question a bill. I'm 7 News consumer anchor Diane Lee with how to tackle surprise medical billing.
Another one, January, March.
It's been a long road for Dee Cox, who has struggled to get to the bottom of an unexpected medical bill that just keeps coming.
What are you thinking when you're getting all of these bills?
I'm wanting to scream.
Cox says her husband was billed $315 out of pocket for lab work ordered by an in-network doctor at an in-network lab. And this explanation of benefits, or EOB, that comes from her insurance company says the patient responsibility for that service is zero. Cox, whose job just happens to be in medical billing, contacted 7 News suspecting that her husband was a victim of unlawful balance billing. That's where a provider charges patients more than what the insurance company says they owe.
This is, I think, 4 or 5 bills I've received. My insurance has reached out to them twice. I verbally have called them, and I've had enough.
Attorney Rodney Pillsbury says by state and federal law, you have the right to understand the breakdown of your medical expenses.
What's your advice?
Number one is go through your billing statement. I mean, not just what you see on my chart, but get an actual itemized bill. And if you have any questions or challenges about it, make sure you raise that in writing with whoever sent you that bill.
You also have a right to an itemized fair estimate before a medical procedure. Case in point, this lawsuit out of Greenville County against Prisma Health. It alleges the plaintiff was charged more than double what she understood the bill to be, even after she had called ahead to inquire about the cost of therapy. The lawsuit states, although the therapy lasted an hour, a session as defined by Prisma was only 15 minutes, which she did not learn until after getting a large bill. Attorney Jessica Fickling with the White's law firm points to another lawsuit out of Richland County that alleges Prisma issued unauthorized bills to the parents of a child on disability. Fickling says it's all the more reason patients need to closely compare that EOB from the insurance provider to any billing statement.
We're not saying that the hospitals are not deserving of payment. It's just, it should be fair.
7 News reached out to Prisma Health for comment, and the hospital system said it, quote, does not respond to active litigation. You should know as a patient you have protection through the No Surprises Act. For one, balance billing above what your insurance pays is not allowed for emergency care from out-of-network hospitals, ERs, or medical helicopters. And the practice is also not allowed for these out-of-network providers if you've gone to an in-network hospital for non-emergency care.
Now, the only way an out-of-network provider can send you a balance bill for emergency care is if you've given written consent. But if you choose to go to one for non-emergency care, you waive your rights.
And that brings us back to Cox. Quest Diagnostics told her that her husband consented to out-of-pocket labs.
And I said, well, let me see the waiver and I'll pay it. The waiver never showed up.
Until we got involved.
You were my last hope.
After 8 months of back and forth billing questions, Quest not only sent this signed consent form, but also offered to waive the bill. Now, when it comes to medical debt, know this. It must be at least a year past due to be reported to the credit bureaus. Also, unlike other debt, when you pay it off, it should be removed right away from your credit report.
Boy, I tell you what, Diane, this one, first of all, great story.
Thank you.
It's remarkable that you were able to find a woman who is a specialist in exactly this kind of thing, because most of us aren't, Diane. And this stuff, how many times do people think they've paid all the hospital bills, a month goes by, and oh no, here comes another one.
Exactly. And it's so horrible in general to open those bills. And if you don't actually owe a portion of that money, then it gets even more confusing because you're trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, I don't think I owe that. Do I owe that? What do I do? And you really have to know your rights in that situation. The woman that we spoke with was such a perfect example here of somebody who does know her rights, obviously because she's in the medical billing field. And she absolutely knew that when her explanation of benefits from her insurance company said that they did not owe anything, that she didn't unless there was a catch. So she worked tirelessly, many calls, her insurance company called, everyone was trying to figure out what was the catch. And in the end, the Quest Diagnostics never provided to her what that was. And that was apparently a written consent that they only provided to her after we got involved.
And so the reason I think this is so complicated is because let's say you go to the hospital for care or any kind of treatment at the doctor's office, and you broke this down a little bit. You don't know necessarily who the anesthesiologist is. You don't know necessarily who's drawing blood and what lab that blood is going to. There are so many different elements involved in that. I think that's where it becomes confusing for people.
Definitely. So let's talk about this again and try to kind of break it down a little bit more. So first, in the story, I dealt with emergency care. And specifically, you have more rights and coverage when it comes to emergency care. So here you can see that let's say you're in an area where you are out of network, but you still got hurt. And so you're taken to the closest hospital. Well, that might be an out-of-network hospital, but you should still never be balanced billed. And what that means is that you should not be billed in surplus of what your insurance company pays that hospital. That's true for hospitals, special ERs that may be, disassociated from a hospital, and also medical helicopters. But I should say that ground ambulance, unfortunately, is not included in that when lawmakers pass this.
That can be very expensive.
That can be very expensive. So that is something to watch out for and something that you might owe more out of pocket.
And let's talk more about what you mentioned, what your insurance agreed. And this is another part. I remember once I did a story where I contacted every hospital in the state and asked them, how much is one aspirin? And it turns out they can't even answer that question because there's a rate for somebody who's paying cash. There's a rate for somebody who's on Medicare and Medicaid. There's a rate for every different insurance provider that they've negotiated with. And so it's sort of the same thing when you're getting a medical bill. You have an insurance provider and they've negotiated a price for these services. That's where it should stop, right?
Right. And that's why I brought up the situation of the first lawsuit where there was a Greenville woman who had called ahead of time to find out the fair estimate price of therapy for if she was experiencing a type of cancer and needed a post-surgery therapy. And she called ahead specifically to find out how much each session would cost. And at no point during that phone call, her lawyers allege, was she told by Prisma Health, unfortunately the representative, that each session was actually only 15 minutes long. So each time she went for an hour, she was actually billed 4 times. Now, the amount turned out to be only double instead of quadruple just because of the way that she was paying. She chose to pay out of pocket, not with her insurance, because she thought it would be less expensive based on that initial phone call. And so when you are charged out of pocket, like you said, Gordon, you're charged slightly differently than if you're charged through your health insurance. So it's very difficult. The point is, it's so hard to figure out what the exact cost is. But what you should know is that you as a patient have a right for non-emergency care to be able to call ahead of time and truly get a fair estimate. And what the lawyers for her were alleging was that it wasn't really fair because it wasn't disclosed that each session was only 15 minutes.
She asked about the price and they scheduled her for an hour, and almost every reasonable person in the world would hear, oh, you're going to be here for an hour. That's one. Right?
Yeah, that's what she thought, and that's what I think anyone would think.
That it would catch anybody off guard. Okay, I'm going to pull up here. This is where you showed us the explanation of benefits relative to a price. In this case, it's a laboratory doing lab tests, Quest Diagnostics. So explain to me what I'm looking at.
Yeah, so the reason why this is an important thing for people to just note is that when you are paying a medical bill, you're going to get the one on the left-hand side, the bill first. I mean, it's very likely that you're going to get that first because those medical providers want that bill to get right out to you so that you pay it right away.
They want to get paid for work.
Yeah,
I mean, that's fair.
And they should, exactly. But do not pay that right away. Wait till you get the sheet on the left that corresponds with it. These are only the first pages, Gordon. So when you would receive something like this, it would go several pages deep. You would hopefully get an itemized deduction on, not deduction, I'm talking taxes here, an itemized procedure
a bill,
charge,
bill,
exactly, on your left. And then you would get more specific details in the following pages on the right. But the point is that you need to check that explanation of benefits from your insurance company first to make sure that it says that's what you actually owe.
Have you asked for those itemized bills before?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they can be incredibly thick.
They can.
A lot of stuff in there.
And the point that the attorney that we spoke with made, which is so key here, is that don't just look on the My Chart. That's only going to have the cost and maybe the data service in the name of it. You really do need to see that itemized breakdown so that you know exactly what you're being charged for. Also, when it comes to the explanation of benefits, you want to make sure that you look for that kind of that patient responsibility. For instance, here she did actually owe $6.72 for a different service from the same day, which is why comparing the bill to the explanation of benefits was so important. But when it came to the actual service that we were discussing, which is that overall charge for a particular lab that wasn't covered by her insurance company, it did say zero.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to pay attention to, I guess, on these, so you've got a customer who got a bill for over $300 here, and that EOB says they owe less than $7. I don't care who you are. That is a night and day difference for just about anybody.
Yes, absolutely. And again, we were in a situation where this woman was so knowledgeable about medical billing. She, in fact, reached out to 7 News Here to Help after this whole situation and was, obviously wanted to help educate others in addition to trying to look further into her own problem because she wasn't getting as far as she wanted, but she knew what her rights are. And that's the point that we really want to make to everybody. You have to know, you have to look for it, you have to stay on top of these bills. And I liked what you said earlier. Hospitals, any medical organization deserves to be paid what they deserve to be paid. But really knowing your rights is important.
So speaking of that, not everybody watching this is going to be in South Carolina, but let's pull up a South Carolina law here. I've got it over here.
And actually, Gordon, this is a South Carolina breakdown of an overall law, the No Surprises Act that was federal law.
Okay, wow.
Exactly.
So this would apply to anybody.
Right.
watching.
So it really would, exactly. And if you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see where they say balance billing, and they talk about the No Surprises ban, balance billing for emergency services and some non-emergency services. And you see that list. I had that in my story as well. But if you highlight that list, starting with the anesthesiology, right there, you'll see that all of those are related to non-emergency care if you are getting a procedure done at an in-network hospital. So for instance, let's say I had a procedure at an in-network hospital, I had to get an appendectomy. And let's say the anesthesiologist was not in-network. Well, under the No Surprises Act, you can't be suddenly billed an extra charge for that anesthesiologist just because they're not in your network. Right.
Because that would be the absolute nightmare scenario.
That really would, because you're thinking, I'm doing all the right things. I'm going to an in-network hospital and I should be covered. So this is one of the reasons why the No Surprises Act came about in the first place.
And then just to reiterate, in an emergency situation, our insurance here at work just recently had a dispute with a local hospital. If you wound up in an ambulance going to that hospital and they are out of network, you're still going to be covered by this sort of thing.
Exactly. For emergency services, you have a lot more coverage under the No Surprises Act. So usually, anything except for the actual ambulance charge, Gordon, under emergency services, the ER and anything related to that, physicians, you would fall under the No Surprises Act and should not get a balance bill.
Know your rights, know your rights, know your rights.
Yes, indeed.
The bottom line. All right, that is Diane Lee. She is our expert on consumer matters. We're going to come right back with another great, helpful piece of advice from Diane after this quick message. And you are still with us here to help today. Gordon and Diane Lee, our consumer expert. Diane, sort of if there's one umbrella above all of the work you do here, it is watch out for scammers. So we're going to maybe highlight the ones to look out for the most right now.
Yeah, how else can we stop these bad actors than just truly by educating people? And that's what we hope to do with this story.
We get countless reports of scams into our newsroom, and keeping you informed about the latest ploys to steal your money and private information is a top priority. I'm 7 News consumer anchor Diane Lee, and I looked into what scams are hot right now and why many are getting much more difficult to detect.
See how all the tar that's coming up?
Just about every summer, we hear from people like Mary Spindler in Travelers Rest.
The bottom line is that he came in here knowing he was going to scam us, and that's exactly what he did.
Spindler says a group of pavers came to her house offering to resurface her driveway.
He said, and we have all of this that's going to go bad, unless we use it right away, and I'll give you a really good deal.
But nearly $15,000 later, her driveway is full of ruts and grass, and she says the pavers won't return her call.
25 years maintenance free, that was a big scam.
The seasonal paving scam is similar to another bait and switch. Pine straw sellers who show up claiming they have extra, so it's yours for a good deal. But after laying it down, they drastically overcharge.
Now, this time of year, travel scams are a lot more common. You might get a text saying you didn't pay a toll or an email saying your vacation rental money is due. Always verify the source independently.
Cyber experts like Nicholas Watson, the IT director at Sherman College of Chiropractic, say what's most concerning at this present moment is the new twists on old scams.
We are definitely more at risk than we've ever been.
Watson says every scam text, email, video, or call has become vastly more deceptive with the recent rise of artificial intelligence. In seconds, programs can scour social media to compile data about you to personalize the scams.
If you have something on Facebook right now that has your face and has your voice, they can take 30 seconds of you speaking and recreate an entire dialogue.
That is scary.
They can make it say what they want to, they can make it look like they want to. So when you ask about the latest scam, to me, it's more about the latest tool that affects all of the scams.
And some of the top ones, according to the Federal Trade Commission, involve impersonating well-known entities, copycat security alerts, phony subscription renewals, fake giveaways, bogus legal problems, and made-up package delivery issues. Sharon Glass in Boiling Springs says she knew a recent email claiming to be from Norton Antivirus was a scam, so she didn't call the number on the fake $450 invoice. And yet, it's easy to fall victim in unsuspecting ways.
This was the invoice, supposedly.
And was it in an attachment, or is this the actual email?
It was an attachment.
It was an attachment.
Yes.
Okay, now that's one thing I do want to warn you about. If you open the attachment, the warning is that it could have potentially downloaded malware on your computer.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The rule of thumb, don't click on anything, links, or attachments if the source is not verified. And whether it's a traditional scam,
Be very, very careful about someone just showing up at your front door offering to give you a good deal.
or high-tech, chances are a quick search online may clue you in to warnings from others not to fall victim.
Now, one more hot scam this time of year, bogus concert ticket sales. You might see promotions on social media for a discounted event, but watch out, that link could direct you to a fake website.
Oh, so many things to keep. It is amazing how much more sophisticated the online stuff is becoming with the rise of AI. Let's start with this, because I left this video up here of the driveway paving scam, which is an oldie scam.
Yeah, we have both received calls, I'm sure, Gordon, about this one over the years.
The thing I find interesting about it is maybe, and help me out here, would you buy anything from somebody who just showed up unannounced at your door? Door-to-door sales is an old profession, but at this point, maybe just, is that a bad idea?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I really do think you should not pursue buying anything if they show up door to door. You could always take the card and then research it yourself. I had someone show up just this past week with a truckload of pine straw saying that they had extra and offering a good deal. And I said to that individual that...
You've come to the wrong house.
Yeah, you've come to the wrong house. I did end up saying that we've had, reports of scams with that exact situation. I don't think that, and no soliciting in our neighborhood as well. And you hate to turn someone away if they actually are trying to do something honestly, but unfortunately, a lot of people have ruined it in those particular ones, whether it's the driveway or the pine straw scam, that people really need to be forewarned. And yes, Gordon, if someone comes door to door, don't agree on the spot. They're going to try to make it attractive and say you can get a good deal. And really, in the end, it's usually a bait and switch.
Well, let's expand that even more then. If you want to take maybe their card, call, do a little research before a door-to-door salesman, you trust them. Maybe just apply that same rule to cold calls on the telephone, unsolicited emails. Basically, all of this stuff if they come to you unsolicited, maybe you need to always take a step back.
Definitely. In fact, I had interviewed at one point another person about the pine straw scam, and only after the fact did she take the name of that person and look on social media, and she found in the end photos of this person who lived a state away, showing money bags in pictures and saying, I took another person with the pine straw.
Somebody was bragging online.
They were bragging
about how
online.
They were scamming people.
Yes, exactly. So do the research. Something as simple as a Google search, but a social media search as well, can really turn up the answers that you might need.
I got to tell you, it's we're lucky so many crooks are so dumb.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to protect
That's
ourselves.
the truth, yeah.
But on the other hand, the AI is not dumb.
Right.
The AI is incredibly sophisticated. As two people for whom there is endless amounts of audio and video of us available online, it must be incredibly easy for scammers just to replicate us or frankly anyone online at this point.
It really is. And Gordon, you're alluding to deep fakes where they can steal your images and voice. And that is becoming an increasing problem. One of the stories that we're also going to be warning people about are, those grandparent scams, they're called, where you get a phone call and it sounds just like your grandchild. Well, AI is now able to take the voice that perhaps is on your social media account of your grandchild and then be able to shape any words that you want. So the person on the other end of the phone is likely not who you think you're talking to in that situation.
That's scary. Same thing with emails. I mean,
Yeah.
emails are so easy to spoof at this point. I know you hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when you told a woman, don't open that attachment.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's training we get at the office. I'm sure most people who work in a corporate or business setting have had training on that. Unsolicited email, here's an attachment, it looks legit. I mean, sometimes I'm hesitant to trust emails that are completely, I might miss something I'm supposed to get because I'm so paranoid about those attachments.
And you should be. In fact, one of the scams now that's been pretty rampant is, and here I go with talking about more scams, right? But is actually for people who are employed at an office setting where maybe you get emails from your boss or the higher up where they impersonate that individual, and there's a sense of urgency within the email, like I need your help real quick, please, download this and call me back. And then you've downloaded something that puts the whole network at risk, and that's exactly what they want. So so you really do have to be incredibly skeptical. And yes, it was difficult to deliver that news to that very kind lady, but it's just an important example of how you might think that you are not falling victim because you're doing some of the right things, but the scammers in some cases are one step ahead and just want you to do that one little extra thing that you're not thinking will put you at harm's way.
Honestly, not just with scammers. So we've already warned people, cold callers to your house, cold callers on your phone, maybe a bit of a red flag. The other red flag, and you just alluded to it there, is that incredible sense of urgency. You have to open this right now. You have to buy this pine straw right now or the deal's going away. That is a scam mega red flag.
Yeah, so they're appealing. Scammers are effective in appealing. It's called emotional and social engineering. So basically, they're appealing to different factors that are motivations for all of us. So for instance, like a really, really good deal. You'll see a lot of scams that originate, postings on social media and whatnot, like 50% off, something that usually is never 50% off. You click on that, that's probably going to lead you down a scam road, unless it is Black Friday or something, or one of those, 4th of July summer sales. And then also they're going to appeal to the fear factor. So for instance, the grandparent scam that I mentioned, that's when you get a call saying that your grandson's in jail. And so you're fearful for them and what they're going through, or maybe they've just been in a quote car accident or something like that. So fear and then the desire to save money and that urgency that all come along with it and the high pressure sales tactic, those are just ways of social engineering that are highly effective for these scammers.
But all of that designed to sort of short circuit your ability to rationally process, wait a minute, it's no, you don't have time to think, you don't, go now.
Exactly. And you'll see with some of these emails that you're very concerned, you're going to miss your iCloud account is going to all of a sudden close and you're going to lose all of your photos. That's one that a lot of people are getting right now. And so there's that urgency that you're going to miss out on something that's very important to you. So just take a step back. And what I recommend people do is go to Google or go to ChatGPT and put in there the content of what you've been given and the word scam. And if you get results that show that there's scams that are based on that kind of a typical situation, then you know to be very suspect.
Yeah, I've done that with phone numbers, the cold call phone numbers. Literally just type the phone number into Google, and almost always that first hit will be, look out, this one is a robocall scam.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, and that's just such an easy, cost-free thing to do that you can do really quickly to help lead you down the right road.
Well, as long as there are people in this world who have something, there will be people coming up with creative ways to take it away from them. So we are glad, Diane, that you're arming us with a little bit of self-defense to protect ourselves from these scams. You are watching Here to Help. We'll be back with brand new episodes and advice from our consumer expert, Diane Lee, next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.